All of this, he's complaining about how people are treating him when he just randomly just decided to go like, ah, yeah, this chick's ugly. This model is ugly. And then complains about how other people are treating him. So something really funny happened. Like really, really, really funny. Jordan Peterson. Oh, we'll start from the end. Jordan Peterson just yesterday on Twitter decried the toxicity on Twitter, and then said he was going to be leaving the platform, and then he tweeted like 400 times more after that. This is how you know that Jordan Peterson actually is the one who manages his own Twitter account. He doesn't have like a PR guy on it, because you only get these like unhinged meltdowns when when they're sincerely in control. Look, there were like 50 tweets like this. If I showed all of them, like, would legitimately get boring. The endless flood of vicious... Oh, no, sorry, it continues indefinitely. I recently stopped accessing Twitter for 3 weeks as an experiment. I had some of my staff post video links, etc. It was a genuine relief. Is that a good... I don't think that's a good voice. I started to read and write more. There we go, that's better. I started using it again a few days ago, and I would say my life got worse again almost instantly. There we go. That's a little bit better, okay? There we go. The endless flood of vicious insult is really not something that can be experienced. Anything... I like to follow the people I know. I think it's a... He tweeted like a million times. This is like a fraction of a fraction. I told my staff to change my password to keep me from temptation. Right. We're oomfies, by the way. Have I mentioned that enough? Look, he only follows 500 people. Not many for a figure of his size. Oomfies. So anyway, he's been getting just mocked to hell and back on Twitter. You know, what did he do? I hear you asking. Well, my man just recently called a chick ugly. There's this Sports Illustrated model who dumpy thick, you know? And JBP quote tweeted, "Sorry, not beautiful, and no amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that." Which is hysterical. Which is really, really, really funny. You know, I want to just make fun here, but I'll try to make an actual point outside of this just being very funny. The lady here quote tweeted him with "Hoes mad" and got like 1 billion likes or whatever, so she's fine. Her career will be doing better because of this. It's great. But yeah, anyway, you know, so here we have a Sports Illustrated model, obviously plus-sized model, Sports Illustrated, very woke, blah, blah, blah. I think she looks nice. Funnily enough, if you look in the if you look in the comments down here, there are actually a lot of people who are responding, like conservatives going like, sir, Mr. Peterson, sir, I think you've taken it too far this time. I find her quite attractive myself, and my wife has a similar body type. You know, something like that. In fact, I think Michael Knowles... Hold on. The rare Michael Knowles W? Let me find it. He tweets so often. I hate it when they tweet often. Tim Pool? Did Tim Pool also tweet? Where was it? Why do people tweet so much? What a degenerate way to use the app. I swear to God. You should bookmark shit more. I always forget to. In the meantime, we've got lots of very fun conservative... Well, now I must have passed it, because we're past the point... Okay, hold on. One last try. We got this. Oh, there we go. Am I the only conservative who thinks that Yumi Nu, that's her, does in fact have a certain physical beauty? Which has like 2,000 comments. From Matt Walsh, she has an attractive face, but obesity is not attractive, and the swimsuit photo is meant to specifically highlight the obesity as if it's attractive. But we know Matt Walsh is attracted to children, so she's definitely pretty. There were a lot of people in here. There was one guy who responded to the original Jordan Peterson tweet with like, "My wife looks like that, sir," you know, whatever. Anyway, basically, it's just a bunch of Poindexter conservative nerds who are pretending they don't find her hot, or are acting as though the presence of any non-perfectly fit person is like an endorsement of people dying at like 800 pounds. It's just really dumb. If you complain about somebody who looks like this, I'm sorry. I think you're a homosexual. I don't care. Is that problematic? Still don't care. So JP, you know, he gets roasted into oblivion. Everyone's making fun of him. It's a great time. The ratios are aplenty. And the man quote tweets me. Oomphy privilege. So I say also authoritarian, chunky women on magazine covers sounds like a parody of you, because it does. Putting this on a Sports Illustrated cover, authoritarian tolerance is it's remarkably like somebody making fun of Jordan Peterson, you know. Um, it's a conscious, progressive attempt to from Sports Illustrated, attempt to manipulate and retool the notion of beauty, reliant on the idiot philosophy that such preferences are learned. We'll come back to this. And properly changed by those who know better. See this and this, but don't let the facts stop you. To which I responded, what if it's just businesses attempting to expand their base by appealing to a wide range of tastes, audience, and clientele? Isn't this just business? It really seems like you guys are all pro-freedom and pro-free market until you don't like the choices people freely make. Which is, of course, true, right? Yeah, like, conservatives will scream about the free market, but, like, the funny thing is like, if there was something on the Sports Illustrated cover that progressives didn't like, they would write a thread on how it's problematic. Because JP sees something he doesn't like, he writes a thread on it being authoritarian, which is which is really, really, really dumb. But anyway, I wanted to talk about this super quick, okay? So Jordan Peterson seems to be claiming that it is an idiot philosophy that preferences are learned and changed by those who know better. Essentially, he's saying that people's preferences for attractiveness aren't learned, they're inherent. Which is, if you think about it for any length of time, at the face of it, unbelievably stupid. If that was the case, there would be no such thing as fashion trends. You know? People finding certain fashion trends attractive in certain decades and parts of the world because they grow up and see other people doing it and want to fit in and find it attractive therefore. Not really that hard to find. That's with fashion being one thing. Body modifications and piercings and tattoos have different levels of attractiveness based on exposure to them. People's preferences for different racial groups in terms of dating partners changes in accordance with one's exposure to those groups based on proximity. Obviously, this is learned behavior, not intrinsic. Yeah. The people like Jordan Peterson are always making an effort to deny the very possibility of social conditioning, of environmental factors influencing people's behavior, because they want everything to be intrinsic. It's very important to the highly authoritarian fascist worldview of the right-winger that everything people are, everything they want, everything they think is essentially just an inherent product of their blood. And that's basically what JP is saying here. You know, leaving aside the fact that people used to find pale bodies more attractive because it suggested wealth, because you didn't have to work the fields. Now people tend to find tan bodies more attractive relatively because it means that you have the wealth to tan, because most jobs are done inside these days. You know, crap like that. There are a billion examples. You don't have to think hard for examples of people's preferences for body type or fashion changing in different places, different times. Whatever. Okay, whatever. But I think that this reveals a much more insidious set of beliefs on the part of Jordan Peterson, who I have in the past talked about being an enabler of fascism. This is just outwardly fascist thinking, though. See, one thing conservatives love to do is point out that members of different minority groups are doing worse than non-minority groups, and then go like, I guess they have problems they'd better work on. And then when you try to suggest improvements to their environment to bring them up to par with the majority group, they go, no, 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 it can't be that, you know? How many times have we had these conversations, right? You know, it's like, you can't just put money into the schools in black neighborhoods. That won't make the kids there do better. And depending on circumstances, that's true. You need more than that. Though there are plenty of examples of investment in environment leading to better outcomes that conservatives say don't have anything to do with the environment. But when you read something like this, you know, isn't this a refutation of social influence as a concept? Essentially, what this is arguing here is that advertising can't exist because preferences can't be learned, and behavior can't be changed environmentally, because if preferences can't be learned, if that's an idiot philosophy, then how on earth could other things be? Everything must be intrinsic. And it really makes you think about the way they treat race issues, where they will point out correctly that in many ways members of racial minority groups aren't doing as well as white people in the United States, but then they'll deny that environmental causes could be a factor. that the environmental problems must in fact be a product of the lack of personal responsibility from those groups themselves. This is one of the reasons why I'm always very, very insistent. When you talk about any differences between racial groups or whatever, the only explanation for those differences can be environmental or genetic. That's it. Those are the only things that it can be. So this seems to me like an affirmation of the inherently fascist perspective that any differences between majority and minority groups must be a product of intrinsic differentiation. Does that make sense? Oh, yes, I get it. This is much more boring than just laughing at his funny, funny tweets. Fine, fine, fine. It's true, though. It's true. And then he goes on to have a meltdown about how much toxicity he's encountering on Twitter, when he started it by just randomly saying that a woman wasn't pretty. Like, all of this, he's complaining about how people are treating him, when he just randomly, just nothing else, just decided to go like, ah, yeah, this chick's ugly. This model is ugly. And then complains about how other people are treating him. Still tweeting, though he seems to have gotten over the little meltdown, which is good for him, not so good for us. Oh, and of course, as an additional pointer, JP likes to call everything authoritarian. Where's the tweet in response? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Why am I... Oh, wait, this isn't a response. Why does Twitter do this? Why does Twitter do the thing where you click on a tweet, then scroll down? It just puts you back in regular Twitter. That's so strange. Here we go. Yeah, literally anything happens, Jordan Peterson. Which is perfect, by the way. Perfect representation of how he handles everything. He calls everything authoritarian, you know. But in this case, he's saying that it's authoritarian to not show the hegemonic majority group, you know. Like, if it had been a black woman, I mean, is she white? I can't even tell, really. Like, the implication here is that anything outside the most hegemonically acceptable, like, model would have been an authoritarian attempt to forcibly induce tolerance. Does that make sense? In which case, like, what Jordan Peterson is saying here, essentially, and you can imagine this, like, being applied in a great many other cases, like, you know, a non-white person, well, it's authoritarian to represent them. I genuinely think this is essentially great replacement rhetoric, but broadened. I actually think this is worse than that. Because the great replacement argument would be that if this is a non-white person, which apparently they are, and they look non-white, but I'm not dealing with you people canceling me today, you know, a non-white person being on a magazine cover is a product of progressivism and tolerance, and therefore an authoritarian attempt at induced tolerance. Well, isn't that basically just the great replacement rhetoric? The only difference here is that he's not mentioning race, but what he's talking about here is an attack on diversity, because the tolerance here is an invocation of diversity. And diversity is when you have black models on magazine covers, according to conservatives. Does anyone get what I'm saying here? This isn't just great replacement rhetoric. This is society is under threat by the concept of anything changing. It's like great replacement, except it's not about immigration. It's about representation of or exposure to anything outside of the hegemonically accepted value. The use of the term authoritarian to describe anything that might be considered progressive in a model lineup, what would that mean? If it was a handicapped person, then sure. An overweight person, sure. Different racial groups. He's also not mentioning specifically what makes them not beautiful. It's because she's fat. In her case, it's not a race thing. He's talking about her weight. But he's ascribing the authoritarian nature of this inclusion to tolerance, which means that this is an accusation of forced diversity. And forced diversity is something that conservatives accuse people of doing anytime a great many things happen, not just when people are fat, but if people are non-white or whatever, or queer or anything like that. Is JP a racist? Of course. I hope you get what I'm saying. The point that I'm trying to get at is that the language that he's using implies a degree of hyper-authoritarian right-wing logic that is generally beyond what I think he even lets through, like, an implication. Oh, yeah, and then we have this, I assume this is a porn artist, but we have some non-pornography really repping it out. You avatars of chaos have no power over me. My spirit remains uncorrupted. Do I know you? I think he voices Kermit the Frog. Very cute. Thank you. Porn artists stay winning. Putting out the quality content. Is this a porn artist? I didn't actually check the profile. Let's see. Wow, they have only 2,000 followers. I was surprised. Probably going to get more from that. Actually, no, they're not a porn artist. Okay, nope. I just assumed from the art. They haven't blocked you? Crazy, yeah. Link their Twitter. I retweeted it. I retweeted it on my Twitter profile. Oh yeah, their Twitter bio says now suitable for the workplace, she, they. So I'm betting they had porn up and they removed it and have it on a separate Twitter account now because they realized they'd be getting more attention for the Jordan Peterson thing. There we go. That makes sense. That tracks. What's the lesson from all this? Porn artists are better than Jordan Peterson. Yes. All right, moving on.